Welcome everyone to another coffee tasting. I'm your host Aaron Taylor, and today we are trying the Rwanda Oi Mountain by Stumptown once again. But this week we are doing things a little bit different. So last week, you guys, I took a little break from the live streaming. I had a lot going on. I wasn't feeling too well. Just been very busy, so I didn't have any real chance to do any research and prep myself for any coffee tastings last week. So, for those of you guys who tried to tune in on last Tuesday or last Friday for our coffee tasting, I apologize that I did not go live. Like I said, I wasn't feeling all that well, but I'm feeling great this week. And like I promised, we are going to try the Rwanda Oi Mountain iced. And so the reason why I really wanted to try this coffee iced is because of the different flavor notes that we get with this one. This one we get like a melon sweetness with like a honey mouthfeel, and with that honey citrus flavor, and that super sweet melon honey sweetness that we get, I think it's going to taste really good over ice. And so this week we are just going to specifically try the Rwanda Huye Mountain Iced, and we're going to explore the flavor notes and how they changed from the last coffee tasting to today, hot versus iced. And then after we do our coffee tasting, we're going to talk a little bit about um, treating each other with kindness, and going into a world where the pandemic is almost over, so we have to deal with a lot more people than we've been used to for the past year. And so I kind of had a couple eye openers the past couple months that have kind of like inspired me to change the way I look at things, and just to try and help everyone around me rather than trying to um, express my opinions all the time. So we'll talk a little bit about that after we taste this coffee. So I chose the Chemex brew for our iced brew because with the Chemex we get a more balanced cup of coffee. So if we were to do the iced brew with a pour over, we're gonna get some very intense citrus notes, and those floral notes really come forward too in the regular pour over, and so that means we're gonna have a really acidic heavy coffee. And when you pour that over ice, it enhances those citrus flavors, giving it a little bit more crispness than what we're used to. And so I wanted to mellow down that citrus flavors that we get by using the Chemex. With the Chemex, we get a little bit more of a balanced cup of coffee. We still get those heavy citrus flavors because of the melon notes and that honey sweetness. But with this, it's not going to be as intense as it was on the pour over. And then with that ice, it's going to give it that little bit of crispness to the melon flavors that we got in there. So for my choices, it was either the Chemex or the French press. With the French press, we do get a little bit of a heavier cup of coffee. So I wanted to go with a little bit of a lighter flavor to complement the ice flavor that we're gonna get from this coffee. And so with this Chemex, we do a medium coarse grind. So it's going to be coarser than what you would do on a paper filter. And then we're going to have more grinds than you would on a paper filter. So a standard Chemex is going to get around 45 grams of grinds on a medium coarse grind. And so the reason why this is because the paper filter is a triple paper filter, so the water is going to pass through slightly slower. And because the water is passing through slightly slower, there's more contact with the grinds. And so if we were to grind the coffee uh, finer like we do with the paper filter, that longer contact with the grind is going to brew more coffee than we would in the paper filter. And because that extra long contact time, so it's going to impact the flavor in a negative way. So with that slightly coarser grind on the Chemex, it's going to balance out that extra time being brewed with the water up top. So when you brew a pour over or a Chemex, you guys, you want to make sure that you let your coffee bloom when you first pour the coffee, or when you first pour your water. So what that means is you're just pouring a little bit of water over the grinds and you're allowing the air trapped in between the grinds to rise to the surface. And if you don't allow that to happen, what happens is all the air gets pushed down towards the bottom of the paper filter and it creates an air barrier. And that air barrier slows down the brew process. And if you slow down the brew process, that is also going to impact the flavor of your coffee. So this is very important to make sure that we reduce the air barrier at the bottom, or just make sure that we brew our coffee correctly. That way we're getting the exact flavor notes that is intended from this particular blend of coffee. So I am really excited to try this coffee iced just because of those melon citrusy notes and that honey mouthfeel that we get from this one. It's going to taste really, really good. I presume it's going to taste really good because of those melon notes are going to have like a really bright crispiness to it from the ice flavor, and then that honey sweetness is going to make it really, really sweet. It's going to be a I assume it's going to be a really mellow, smooth, and sweet iced coffee, almost kind of like a tea. I would expect. So, what's really cool about these single origin coffees is the fact that we get to learn the stories of the farmers and where the coffee comes from and how it got to where it is. So, if you guys have not watched the coffee tasting for the Rwanda Huye Mountain, I encourage you guys to do so. We learn a lot about the coffee and the people who grow this coffee, and we learn a lot about the special community that this coffee is dedicated to providing a sustainable community for. And that's another really cool thing about single origin coffees. We learn how coffee helps the people who grow it. And especially with single origin, we learn about the specific individuals who grow the coffee, how it impacts them, and what they did before growing coffee, and how growing coffee has helped them. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about those stories and the farmers, and have a little bit more appreciation for the cup of your coffee, visit my YouTube channel if you guys are watching on Instagram. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, go to the playlist and check out some of those videos. There's a lot of cool stories to be told and a lot of cool stories to learn on my coffee tastings. So one of my favorite coffee tastings is Brazil, because there's a lot of rich culture and history through Brazil and how coffee made its way to Latin America. And then from there, it kind of blew up and slowly made its way to Central America. And so, just learning these stories and how coffee traveled around the world is very important so that we could better appreciate our cup of coffee and pay tribute to the people who put a lot of hard work in making sure that we can have a delicious, robust, full flavored cup of coffee. And so, something that's interesting that I want to talk about is the high quality beans that we are getting from the farmers and how they don't really get to drink their coffee. And it's not, they don't get to drink their coffee because they're forced not to drink it. It's more or less they don't drink their coffee because they're trying to get the most out of their work. And if they drink their highest quality espresso or highest quality coffee beans, then they're drinking their coffee or they're drinking their money. And so one of the things that they do is they make sure that they save their best beans for exporting. They want to export their best beans because when you export your best beans, you're showing the quality that you can provide and just the quality that you are able to grow on your farm. If they were to keep all the high quality beans for themselves and then just sell everything else, then they get that reputation for not having as great quality beans. So just for appearances and stuff like that, farmers choose not to drink their best quality beans and export it to companies like Stumptown and Starbucks so that when those companies can provide high quality espresso beans to their customers, they are actually providing the highest quality espresso beans. Because sometimes when you hear these stories and you hear about like um, Starbucks only buys the best beans off the farmers, and then the farmers are left to the lower quality beans. It's not because Starbucks is forcing them to sell the highest quality beans. It's just what happens. They sell their highest quality beans to Starbucks or Stumptown or any other company that's sourcing their beans from them because they want to make the most out of their work. The coffee growers, they do get to try some of the best quality beans, but they primarily drink the lower quality beans because they're making that sacrifice to make that extra dollar to provide for their families. So it's not a fact of like being forced to drink the lower quality beans or anything like that. It's a choice of the farmers to only source out their higher quality beans for reputation and namesake, and then also to have that extra dollar for a sustainable livelihood. Making sure that they're always providing that high quality Arabica Robusto flavor. And so that's one of the important things that I like to say, because when you hear those stories and you think, oh, the farmers don't get to drink their high quality espresso, that's not fair. They do have the opportunity to, but at the end of the day, they choose not to because they're just trying to make that extra dollar. They make that personal sacrifice to drink the lower quality beans so that they can take an extra dollar home. All right. So, again, the reason why I chose the Chemex is because we're getting a more balanced cup of coffee. I'm able to dispense a little less water, control the amount of the brew that I get. So what I did was I did 45 grams of medium coarse grind, and then we did the half amount of water allotted for a Chemex, and then I did a 16-ounce cup of ice. So we have a 16-ounce cup of ice in here. We poured the coffee over that, and now we are going to pour the Chemex iced coffee over a fresh cup of ice. And so first, before we go ahead and pour it, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of stir, kind of get that consistency, because with coffee, we do still have a little bit of sediments and a little bit of oils, and over time, those layers start to settle. And then also, we can use a little bit more of a colder flavor as well. So we're going to go ahead and stir a little bit and give it a little bit of swirl. And then also what this does too is it kind of aerates the coffee as well. So it's going to give it a little bit different flavor. And then when we pour it, we want to pour from we want to pour a little bit higher from our cup. And the pour from that is also going to give it a little bit of aeration as well, changing the flavor of the coffee. All right, perfect. So since it's an iced coffee, it's not going to have a whole lot of aromas, but we are still going to smell it to see what kind of notes that we get from the surface of the coffee. So we're definitely getting like some subtle milk chocolate notes that's coming through, which is very, very interesting, but we still get that bright melon scent as well. Ooh, that is really good. Okay, so with this, more of those bitters are definitely making its way through. We get a little bit more of a milk chocolate mouthfeel at the very beginning, but it's got a nice melon crispness to it. Crispness. Every time I say that, it sounds like I say Christmas. Crispness. And then we get like a really sweet honey mouthfeel towards the end. That is a really good cup of coffee. It's really, really good iced cup of coffee. If you guys are a heavy coffee drinker and you're looking to switch to an iced coffee at home and you don't know what to brew for an iced coffee, the Huye Mountain, Rwanda Huye Mountain, is a very, very good cup of coffee produced by Stumptown. You get like a really nice mellow sweetness, like a bright melon crispness, and then you get that subtle milk chocolate mouthfeel at the very beginning. This is really good. A lot better than I was anticipating. I had figured that it was going to be very tasty and very, really, really mellow and smooth, but I wasn't anticipating it being as good as it is. Like literally, like most of the time when I drink an iced coffee, I like to add sweetener, uh, typically white mocha. But with this, it's so smooth and clean, and it's got like such a nice sweet melon flavor to it that I don't want to add anything to it because I feel like it's going to ruin the flavor. Oh man, that is really, really good, you guys. Okay, so now that we've tried the Rwanda Huye Mountain iced on the Chemex, which I definitely recommend for those of you who are looking for a good iced coffee to switch over to for the summer. Now we're going to talk about a little bit about how we as people act in public. So I've gone out a couple times in the past couple months with some family members. I'm not going to say who they are, just because I don't want to shame anyone and put a bad name to anyone's name. But anyways, when I was out with this particular person, we went to a restaurant and a couple stores, and there was some behavior that was being displayed on the other person's account that made me as a person embarrassed to be with that person in public. So they had displayed a behavior that was extremely rude and very, very impatient. And so one of the first things I want to talk about is patience, you guys. So we're going into a world where the pandemic is just about over. A lot of things are opening back up. 60% of adults are vaccinated, and once we get to around 70 to 80%, it will be completely safe for everyone to be out. So we're getting to a point in time where there's going to be a lot more people out. The lines in stores and restaurants are going to be a lot longer. The queue times for getting to a table in a restaurant is going to be a lot longer. So I want to share with you guys just to like try and keep your patience with everything and anyone that is going on around you in these next couple months that we're going into. Just because um, I have been embarrassed with some of the behavior that I have been introduced to and been a part of, and I've kind of had to look at myself and the way I behave in public and uh, the what I do in terms of patience. And so it's actually been really nice for me because I've been kind of looking at the different things that I do and trying to change the way I behave with certain behaviors. And I'll catch myself and one of the most important things is I'll ask myself, how does that particularly help the situation? Did I make the situation better or did I make it worse? And then a lot of the situations, like we want to voice our opinions, and especially if we feel strongly about that opinion. But the more strongly you feel about that opinion, the more strongly you should hold back because when you feel strongly about an opinion, you're going to come off very strong and you can upset people. And that's what we're trying to avoid right now is trying to upset other people around us because we don't know what that particular person is going through because you yourself are upset as well if you're acting this way and making people around you feel embarrassed for your behavior. And if you're acting that way to someone else and that particular person you're acting towards might already be having a bad day, you're adding on top of that. And so, one of the things we want to constantly think about is trying not to add to someone's bad day. So, even if you're having a bad day, you don't want to add to someone else's bad day. You want to stop and think and how you're affecting the people around you and maybe stop what you're doing and walk away, breathe for a little bit, come back and try and look at it as a good thing, or even just try to ignore your frustrations. So I recently went to a restaurant, and the person that I was with was vocally expressing their frustration for just a 10-minute wait. I mean, yes, we were one of the first people to arrive, but it is a restaurant that is getting used to opening back up. Their employees aren't used to having people wait out front to a line getting into the restaurant as soon as they open because we're going back into a world where the pandemic is going away, everyone's being vaccinated, so you have a lot more people going out. And so when I'm there and this person is vocally expressing their frustration with the wait time and how we were like third person or fourth person in line and that we shouldn't have to wait, um, those those employees that are working there, they hear this behavior, and even though they are working their best to get you seated and get you in your place, um, sometimes when we're adjusting to the world that's constantly evolving, we aren't equipped with the proper tools and facilities to be able to accommodate everyone at the same time. So it's important for us to remember that just because that person isn't necessarily helping us right away doesn't mean that they don't want to. Um, and also at the same time, if we express those kind of thoughts out loud, it's only stressing them out and making their job that much more harder. So if you can help them by staying calm and staying patient and then also thanking them for their hard work, that is going to make it that much more easier for the everyday person to do their work. And so there's a couple incidents all in the same day where it was just like constant embarrassed by the person I was with. And because of this happening, it has helped me stop and think about the things that I'm saying out loud when I get frustrated, and then even just not saying anything at all. Just because it doesn't help the situation, it doesn't help the people who might not, and it's not necessarily them not doing their job, it's they're doing their job at their best capacity. It's just they don't have the necessary tools or capacity to do their job the way you want them to do it. And the only way that they can do better is to continue what they're doing now, and so that they can be given the tools in the future. And if we act that way, it's going to make them harder to do their job the way that they are given it now. And they're not going to be given the resources in the future because they're unable to commit to their current job because people keep crapping on their day. And so one thing that I am constantly doing these days is constantly thinking about the things that I vocally express about my frustrations around me. And if I do get frustrated, I kind of step back, look at how I can help my frustrations. And if I can't, I just trudge through them. That's the only thing we can do is trudge through them, get used to them. And if you can find a resolution to your frustration without impacting the people around you in a negative way, I definitely encourage so. But if you can affect people in a positive way and help people go out throughout their days in a positive way, that is a much better resolution than vocally expressing your frustration. And then even if you can come to the defense of someone in a mannerly way, I would definitely encourage that too. Just because sometimes other people don't know their behavior, and so sometimes you need someone to put you in check. I personally, I have someone who uh, I have reached out to, and I have let them know, like, hey, if I am not acting right, or if I'm, closed off, or if I'm being slightly rude, or if I'm a little off today, just tell me, hey, Irish. You're not being Irish today. That's my code word. I'm not, because my more personable self of being is my Irish personality, the person that gets along better with people. As I've grown as a person, I've associated with my nickname Irish with the person that gets along and can talk to people much more better. And so their code word that I have people, a select few people, and the reason why I have a select few people is because I know that I won't get frustrated with that particular person when they say this. And so if they tell me, hey, Irish, you're not being Irish today, I know that there's something wrong with me and I need to take a step back and think about how I'm acting, because however I was acting before might be affecting people in a negative way. And so if you guys have a person that you can reach out to, and then someone that can put you in check without you getting frustrated with them about putting you in check, I encourage you to do so, because sometimes and a lot of the times we don't know the that our mood is affecting other people around us and how that mood is affecting other people around us. And so if you can have a person that is around you all the time that you can trust and remind you, hey, you know, you're not in the proper mood right now. Like, you know, we like to be around you, but right now you're being that person that's not fun to be around. I encourage you to reach out to that person just because it's always good to have someone that can be our balance, someone to push us back into our equilibrium and make sure that we're staying happy because making sure that you're happy means you're being healthy. If you're frustrated and constantly angry, it's going to throw off your health. And so making sure that you're anxiety free, happy, is very important, you guys, and making sure that, you know, we really control our behavior in the public and controlling our patience and making sure that we remain patient with other people and that we are appreciative of the service work that people do for us to make sure that we can continue to go out and enjoy a lunch at a restaurant or a coffee at a coffee house. So thanks again everyone for joining. Today's coffee tasting was dedicated to the Huye Mountain Iced, which was very delicious. If you guys are looking for an iced coffee, I definitely suggest the Rwanda by Stumptown. Super good. And I hope that you guys were inspired a little bit about the story today on how I have used someone impacting me in a negative way to help look at myself and how I might be impacting other people in a negative way. Stop, take a step back, look at how I can approach that situation differently, and then try and help the people around me. Super important, especially when we're going into a more open world where the everyone's starting to go out and the more maskless people and stuff like that. And so making sure that we remain patient, calm, and friendly is very important, you guys. And reach out to anyone who you think can be your level guide. Thanks again for joining. If you guys are watching on Instagram, head on over to my YouTube channel, Live with Irish, and hit that subscribe button. It really helps me create more content for this channel. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. It really helps me evolve this channel and really helps me beat that algorithm. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. And don't forget to try Stumptown Rwanda Huye Mountain Iced. Have a great day.